Scott, it is time to defend yourself because
Gosh, I don't
Do
want you to
as
put it
he
that way.
says, not as he does.
I am going to pull up the Tout Wars draft board for those watching here on YouTube. Tout Wars, an industry draft, 15 of the best fantasy baseball minds in the industry competing against each other. 15-team Roto with OBP instead of batting average. Scott was drafting 13th out of 15 teams. And if you are watching on YouTube, you see where my mouse is right here? This is right below Scott White's team name. First round pick, Tarek Skubal. Scott, explain yourself.
Well, a couple things. This is an OBP league. That is the biggest difference between it and a standard Roto league. 15 teams, OBP instead of batting average. OBP, that's a tough one. OBP is a tough one. As much as we talk about how batting average is concentrated early in drafts, OBP even more so, because the batting average guys that come later in drafts generally don't walk a lot. So it kind of just becomes this indistinguishable mass with a bunch of bad OBP guys and then some not terrible OBP guys. But to really bolster that category, you need to do that early. And it turns out everyone in this draft really, really, really took that to heart to almost an extreme laughable degree. But I couldn't get left out, right? So I had my choice of picking 13th or 15th. The past 2 years, I picked 15th. Didn't go well. I decided to pick 13th this time for the explicit purpose of drafting Yordan Alvarez, getting a nice OBP base there early, pairing Yordan Alvarez with Bryce Harper. By ADP, it looked like I could pull this off pretty confidently. Yordan Alvarez went 12th. Yordan Alvarez went 12th. So I was tilting from the get-go, and I had a situation where it didn't even look like, I don't know, the Fantrax draft room, it kind of threw me at first, how they highlight things. And I was just kind of tilting over that and not realizing that I was up until, it started playing the like doom theme of you have less than 10 seconds left. And so I had to make a quick 3-second calculation. I said, Lindor loses a lot of value when it's OBP. Fernando Tatis loses a lot of value when it's OBP. Julio Rodriguez loses a lot of value. Jackson Chourio loses. Like, none of these guys are good at OBP.
Jackson Merrill.
So I want to take somebody who's really going to give me something good, something that I can say I have an advantage here. So I took Tarek Skubal.
I don't think his OBP is going to be good, Scott. I think you messed this one up.
I had a chance of I might have just taken Harper, who I again intended to take in round 2. Fortunately, I was still able to get him to round 2. So that was the one thing that went as planned. I would have really been tilting if that hadn't happened. I might have just paired Skubal with Skeens at that point, to be honest. Skeens ended up going with the 6th pick in round 2. So I had a chance at him too on the way back. Yeah. But no, I got Skubal and Harper to start out, and it felt weird. And from that point forward, my plan was out the window. I just tried to keep feeding the OBP monster because everyone else was doing it. Everybody was drafting OBP guys till the OBP guys were gone, basically. And I couldn't afford to get left behind there. But also trying to take advantage of obvious values, guys who slid because it's an OBP league and people were passing them over. So I was kind of splitting the baby there, not trying to force anything. That's kind of the theme for me this year. And it's been a long time coming, this admission, but I think we're there. I don't think I should approach any draft feeling like I can outsmart anybody anymore. I think our methods of evaluating players have become so sophisticated and so accessible to everybody that you're just not going to get an edge that way. Mm-hmm. So I got to get an edge some other way. Like if I try to defy the consensus, I'm going to miss more often than I hit. So rather than doing that, I want to take advantage of when my particular draft defies the consensus and just gobble up the value regardless of my personal feelings. Trust in the consensus to the degree possible. Of course, you know, the later it gets in the draft, the more you have to go with your own gut feeling of players. But that's what I tried to do here, beginning in round 3. And it is not a team I imagined myself drafting. I should probably rattle off some of the picks for the people listening so they know what I'm talking about. So it was Tarek Skubal in round 1, Bryce Harper in round 2, Corey Seager in round 3. A miracle that in an OBP league, that was the key pick of my draft, I think, that he lasted to that point in OBP league. That is the 43rd overall pick. So Seager in round 3, Chris Sale in round 4, 2 pitchers with my first 4 picks.
Timeout, Scott. 2 pitchers in your first 4 picks.
Yeah.
I was just, I was eating dinner with my wife, and of course, the romantic that I am, I've got my phone next to me. I'm refreshing, checking Scott's team. I want to see, all right, what's Scott doing in this draft? And I look over and I'm like, I don't know what Scott's doing in this draft. I'm like, he's got 2 pitchers in the first 4 rounds. I'm not saying it was bad. I think the values you got them at are fair. It just, it threw me for a loop just because, you've been the kind of anti-pitching early all off.
It's kind of a Chris Towers team.
Yeah, in that way, it might be. And it's like, obviously 15 team leagues, the scarcities change. And so you have to keep that in mind. And I think it turned out well taking those 2 pitchers early because there were clearer hitter values to seize upon in the middle rounds in this particular draft. But it was very much in the spirit of, I don't feel like I can outsmart anybody anymore, so I better just take the obvious value when it's presented to me and work around that. And so, so again, Skubal 1, Harper 2, Seager 3, Sale 4, 5 CJ Abrams. In traditional 5x5 leagues, he's the 42nd player taken on average over the last week in FPC, 42nd. I got him 73rd here, so that's how much CJ Abrams fell due to it being an OBP league. My second shortstop. Middle infield spot, obviously. My first base dealer, so I really needed a lot of those at that point. And so I was happy to get CJ Abrams, even though he was filling my middle infield spot in round 5. Round 6, Ozzie Albies. Same thing. Fell a lot because it's an OBP league.
I think people overthought that one, though.
I think so, too. That's why I took him.
Like, he doesn't walk a ton, but he's, like, when he's right, he's usually average at OBP. He's not a difference maker. Yeah,
320-ish, right?
I think the MLB average is like 320 now.
And he contributes a lot of everything else.
Yeah.
There was kind of a fixation on OBP that went beyond. And I get it. Like I said at the beginning, it is even more concentrated in the early rounds than batting average. But yeah, everybody just went. So, like, for example, Kyle Schwarber was the 17th overall pick. He actually went a spot ahead of Harper, which that's hard to justify even if you are thinking OBP. But because it is OBP you're measuring for Schwarber instead of batting average, he moved up that much. And that's just one example. I know somebody took Tyler Stevenson in round 7, and he's had some good OBP years in the past, not most recent. I was the justification was it's an OBP league, but Tyler Stevenson went ahead of Shea Langoliers. Somehow JT Realmuto went behind Austin Wells, Logan O'Hoppe, Francisco Alvarez, Shea Langoliers, and Tyler Stevenson. So I just don't
great
get
value on Realmuto there.
I should have. I was gearing up to take him in round 11, but it didn't work out.
I think you did a good job with your next couple of with 3 of your next 4 picks, finding OBP guys who can help make up for what Abrams and Albies will
bring down,
take away from your team.
Yeah, I think so too. And I had a really good base at the beginning between Harper and Seager that I thought even if that didn't happen, but I wanted to be good at OBP, not just, I didn't want to just survive it. So Albies in round 6, then Mike Trout in round 7. This is where we get into some dicey territory health-wise. Mike Trout in round 7, Brandon Nimmo in round 8. 2 good OBP guys, my first 2 outfielders.
I don't love that Brandon Nimmo's still hurt.
Yeah, me neither. But in theory,
it's not a foot though, isn't it? Wasn't it like
I thought I saw a piece the other day that he's still dealing with the foot. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, he is. But but that's kind of something you deal with for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So I think it'll probably be fine. If his batting average bounces back, he's elite in OBP, and I think he'll be good at everything else if he stays on the field. So Nimmo in round 8, Justin Steele in round 9 is my third starting pitcher, Jerkson Profar in round 10 is my third outfielder. Again, I had to move him way up because it was an OBP league. Didn't want to fall behind there. Royce Lewis, miraculously in round 11.
Yeah.
He was still there after Max Muncy, Alec Boehm, after
Anthony Volpe.
Some really obscure third. Like, it was clear Royce Lewis, this is the last. I think the next best third baseman after him was Nolan Arenado. So, like, if you want a good third baseman, this is your last chance. And so I got great value on Royce Lewis. But, of course, there's some injury risk. Jordan Romano in round 12. That's my first reliever.
He looked awesome.
And then a couple, I won't read the whole team, but a couple great values here in round 13 and 14. Brian Wu in round 13. He fell a long way. It's my fourth starting pitcher. Bryce Terang in round 14. I hate Bryce Terang. Don't trust him as a hitter at all. He went 110 picks after his ADP. And I really needed his steals at that point because my only reliable base stealer was CJ Abrams. I get another 40, 50 steals there in Terang. Later on, I get your guy, Victor Robles, Chris. I think between those three players, I'll be plenty competitive in steals. Abrams, Terang, and Robles. And ended up with, I ended up in a better save situation than I feel like I normally do in these deep roto leagues. My first one was Romano. So, a little risky there. But number 2, Lucas Urseg. Number 3, Calvin Fauché, who should be the Marlins closer. And then I also got Edwin Uceta in round 24. So I think I got 4 guys who will contribute to saves to some degree. And if only 2 of them work out, I'll probably be okay. Maybe the weirdest thing I did at catcher, I really wish I had gotten Real Muto in round 11. I also came close to drafting, who was it? Joey Bart at one point, but there was another guy even earlier.
Connor Wong?
No. Let me see if I can look at my tiers and refresh my memory that way.
Sean Murphy lasted pretty long.
Sean Murphy. Yep, that was it. Sean Murphy.
Round 18, yep.
Yep. I was gearing up to take each of them when they went. JT Realmuto in round 11. Joey Bart, I think, went before Sean Murphy, and then Sean Murphy in round 18. And it just didn't work out. So at that point, I was like, I don't care. Like, people kept giving me grief about it. I don't have a catcher yet. What are you doing? At that point, all the catchers stink. Okay, I could take Bo Naylor. He was so great last year. Like, maybe he'll be good, but probably not. And so it's just like anybody who's going to get even a decent number of at-bats there, you can probably get like a 240 batting average, 10 home runs, not a 0 and runs an RBI, whatever. It just doesn't matter at that point. So my second to last and last pick, I went with Drake Baldwin and Dalton Rushing, just hoping they find their way into at-bats early. It sounds like Baldwin will be the Brave starter at the beginning, and maybe he finds a way to stick around. And if they don't find jobs early enough, I'll just use somebody like Travis d'Arnaud or Jacob Stallings to fill in, and I think it'll be fine. I think that was a better use of those picks once we got to a certain threshold at catcher. But the rest of my lineup, I got full-time players there, some injury risk, but in theory, they're all going to play a lot, and that's a big deal in a deeper league. Pitching staff looks strong pretty much in every category. I don't know. I was a stress ball the whole time. Like I said, I was tilting from the beginning. A lot of these players aren't players that I typically draft. How do you guys feel about it?
I do have one question.
Okay.
David Fry wasn't taken, was he?
He was.
Okay. I didn't see him. Okay.
Yeah.
Because that'd be a good one to stash if you were looking for that. I think it came together pretty well. Frank, can you scroll down so I can see how you got filled out the pitching staff? Because I love Skubal, Sale, Steele,
Wu,
3 lefties, and then Wu. I think that's a great start.
My next starting pitcher, I named my 4 relievers already. My next is Cody
Mhm.
Bradford, who I like, but he's round 21. Then Chris Bubich in round 22, again, also like. On my bench, I tried to get some pitching depth on my bench, just kind of safe, stable guys, because pitching injuries are going to happen. And in a 15-team league, if you're trying to fill that in off the waiver wire, you're going to wreck your ERA and whip. So on my bench, I have Chris Bassett, Jameson Taillon, and then Mike Soroka with my very last pick. So it was Skubal, Sale, Steele, Woo, then Cody Bradford, Chris Bubich. On my bench, Chris Bassett, Jameson Taillon, Mike Soroka.
So it's a little weak for presumably starting 6 starters. You don't have to. You can start 5.
I think you can go 5-4 to start the season, and then kind of.
Well, I'll probably do, as long as everyone's pitching well, is with my weaker starting pitchers, I'll take advantage of 2 start weeks to the extent I can, as long as everybody's healthy and pitching up to their capabilities.
But yeah, I would prefer like one more upside-ish arm, but I get the thought process behind Bassett and Taillon can be stabilizers while you search the wire, because I'm sure there were some guys undrafted who are, have some intrigue. But
Tristan McKenzie went undrafted. He was if I went the upside route, I would have gone with him, but he walked 5 batters in his last spring start, and it's just like, I'll probably not get another chance at even like a Taillon type.
Yeah. No, I get that. But yeah, when I guess 4 pitchers in your first 13 and then nothing for a few rounds. Yeah, I would probably gone with another pitcher that I feel has some upside, but I get it.
I think maybe where you took Christian Campbell, Scott, right here, round 19, that felt maybe a little bit like a luxury pick for you based on the way the rest of your roster was put together. Maybe just taking another pitcher there. I mean, I'm looking at the next one there was Matthew Boyd.
Yeah, that's the thing, is the next pitcher taken who I think is interesting is either Bubba Chandler, who was the last pick of that round or the next round.
But maybe
or
like
Ryan Weathers. Yeah, that was the other one.
Weathers, Walker Buehler, Nestor Cortez, or like even a boring guy like a Merrill Kelly, something like that.
I mean, I don't feel like Jameson Taillon's that much worse than Nestor Cortez personally, but
maybe not.
I wasn't looking at pitcher at all at that point. If I didn't take Christian Campbell, that's where I would have taken Joey Bart.
Gotcha.
And I just decided, look, Campbell, he's mostly
Sounds like he might. Sounds like he might be the opening day second baseman.
He might be.
They've been playing him in the outfield too.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. They've been playing him even more in left field than at second base this spring. So I think
weird.
I think if he does make the team, he's going to pick up outfield eligibility at some point.
They're saying Willie Abreu might not be ready for opening day.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. And really, I'd hoped to take Campbell and then maybe a couple rounds later, Roman Anthony too. But Roman Anthony went 2 picks after I took Campbell. Yeah, that was a round pick 285. And obviously a ton of upside there with Campbell. I'm hoping a ton of versatility too. It was kind of my one luxury pick. Normally in recent years, I've made the mistake of taking too many luxury picks. That was the one. That was the one guy. I don't know. Andy Pajes is my bench outfielder. I guess we don't know his playing time situation, but it could be a lot.
Yeah, I think it's fine. Yeah.
I didn't have a lineup full of like Jackson Holiday types,
I will say I actually like the catcher pairing. It's just like Baldwin. I think it's a great pick. I'm surprised he went that late, given that it seems pretty likely he's going to open the season as the Braves starting catcher. Rushing, I just don't know what the path is. Like that's the biggest problem for him, is that like I think he would be a must start fantasy catcher. It's just I'm not even sure he's gonna be on the roster.
No, he probably won't be on opening day, but I think he will be soon. And I think the reports of Will Smith still having a bruised ankle from last year,
last June,
and them saying they're going to need to rest him more because of that. I think that opens the door for Dalton Varsho to play
Dalton Rushing
to play the Dalton Varsho role, the old Dalton Varsho role with the Diamondbacks, hybrid backup catcher and outfielder. There's not an opening in the outfield for him to do that yet, but there probably will be at some point. And I think he'll play a lot, and I think he'll be really good. I think he'll certainly be better than any any of the actual catchers I could have taken at that point.
This is one of those things where, like, I'm sure Austin Barnes is a great guy, and I'm sure pitchers love throwing to him, and he's great in the clubhouse. Probably doesn't need to still be the backup catcher there.
I wonder if
it's
it's just a defense and calling games.
It's a we're the Dodgers. We have the luxury to have a guy that everybody likes and does the little things, but selfishly, I would rather have Dalton rushing.
It'll happen at some point.
Yeah, Scott, I think the statistical profile came together well after the first 4 picks, and I was kind of, whoa, what's Scott doing? I think the fact that
imagine how I felt.
You went aggressive on hitters after that. It was 6 of your 7 next picks were all hitters, and when I came back to the draft later, I said, all right, I feel like statistically it came together well. It's just health. How many games are you going to get from these guys? I think that is going to be the key for your team here. It's just, can we keep Mike Trout on the field and Royce Lewis and Brandon Nimmo?
Those are the 2 biggest.
Yeah.
Some of these guys have injury histories apart from them. I mean, certainly Chris Sale, too, if you want to factor a pitcher in there. So let's say those 3, Sale, Trout.
And Brian Wu.
Yeah, fair enough. It's the sort of thing where it's like, you can't address everything. You're having to address all the different categories. You're having to address all the different positions. You're having to address OBP specifically because it was priced way up in this draft. Health risk just kind of took on a lower priority, and I would say Trout and Lewis are the ones that worry me most because I'm asking a lot from Mike Trout.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really have a fallback plan at third base if Lewis goes wrong. So I think the value and the category needs that they fill, it was fine, especially Lewis. I mean, it was insane value. But in a deep league like this, you want health for sure.